The aim is to become a more skillful thinker by the consequences of writing. Writing extends the memory, it facilitates editing, and clarifies thoughts, which is key to developing a well-founded, certain, and efficient mindset. We have so many ideas and questions within our minds, but written down we make better use of them. We can change them around and reject the bad, and keep only the good ones. You see, I began to understand the importance of writing when I needed to construct a business plan for life in general, but writing can also be used as a meditation. This poster I've constructed is inspired by a guide to writing essays by psychological professor Bernt Peterson. I don't think he ever fails to get his point across. He's definitely not an average thinker, which is probably why I find a ton of value in his books and debates. I have his book right next to me, 12 Rules of Life, an Antidote to Chaos. I haven't read it all, but I've learned so much in just a few chapters. But this video is not dedicated to his book. This video is an invitation for everyone to start using the mind to its full potential, and we do that by writing. So let's start by a definition. What is an essay? An essay is a short piece of writing on a particular topic. However, the word essay only means to attempt or to try. Therefore, a short piece written by someone attempting to explore a topic or answer a question. But why bother writing one? You see, from the top of my mind, I'd say to demonstrate knowledge, and furthermore, to formulate and organize an informed, coherent, and sophisticated set of ideas about something monumental. You see, I used to write essays as a student, purely for my teachers and professors, about topics I was less interested in, which probably demoralized my efforts. But I believe I underestimated the power of writing until I used this skill to develop plans and write in my own interest to expand my ideas. Just think about this for a second. If you think about the Abrahamic faiths and you ponder on how the creator of mankind communicated with the creation, it was through holy messengers who came with holy scriptures, in which people still hold firmly today, whilst gigantic empires like the Roman and so many others have fallen. But we still have the books, but we don't have the empires anymore. So it turns out that words may last longer than whole empires. That makes me think about this quote, that the pen is mightier than the sword. How much influence could you have by writing? And how much of a change in the world could you make with the power of writing, whether you do it for good and not bad? Now let's go to the importance of thinking. You see, action based on thinking is likely to be far less painful and more productive than action based upon ignorance. This is because writing extends your memory, facilitates editing, and clarifies your thinking. Like I've said before, writing it down prior to communicating it will have you better equipped to formulate arguments and debate ideas successfully. You see, it's well known that you can write down more than you can remember, so your capacity to consider a number of ideas at the same time is also broadened when you write it down. And once those ideas are written down, you can move them around and change them, word by word, sentence by sentence, and paragraph by paragraph. You can also start to reject ideas that appear unoriginal after you consider them a bit more carefully. If you reject ideas that are unoriginal, then all you'll have left are the good ideas, which you can keep. If you learn to write and edit, you'll also be able to tell the difference between good ideas intelligently presented by skillful thinkers and bad ideas from unskilled thinkers. So if you learn to think through writing, then you will develop a well-organized, efficient mind, one that is well-founded and certain. Like I've said before, this also means you'll be healthier, mentally and physically, as a lack of clarity and ignorance means unnecessary stress. The next important thing to consider is technology. It's better to have two screens rather than one. It's less cramped and more efficient. It's going to be a big factor on your productivity levels. And finally, you have to consider timing. You see, people's brains function better in the morning. There's plenty of research demonstrating this, and I believe it's true myself. Like, I really cannot write throughout the evening. I just feel way more powered in the morning, and I feel much more smarter in the morning. You see, coffee alone is counterproductive, so don't get any of that coffee. You need to have a good breakfast with protein and some fat, which is recommended by Bernt Peterson. On his essay, you can read more about that if you want to. Try to prepare at between 90 minutes and 3 hours writing. Even 15 minutes a day can be done. That's if you do this every single day. You'll definitely develop a good habit and a good mind. Okay, now we understand the power of writing. It's time to move on to the next part of the poster, which is how to construct an essay. This essay doesn't have to be for a teacher or a professor. It might be just you. If you're like me, writing for your own interest, then it can be anything. It could be a business idea, it can be a mind map, or it can be so many other things. Whatever is on your mind. So now we go to the second step. The first step, which was understanding the power of writing and what an essay is in general. Now we're on the second step, which is the levels of resolution. And the first resolution is the selection of words. The second is the crafting of the sentence. This is where you gotta think precisely of where you put each word. The sentence itself should present a thought, a part of the idea expressed within the paragraph. Each sentence should be properly arranged and sequenced inside a paragraph, which is the third level of resolution. If you're no expert, consider this rule. A paragraph should be made up of 100 words, or 10 sentences. Each paragraph should present a single idea. If you cannot think of 100 words, the idea is probably not a good one. But if you can think of more than 100 words, that means there's more than one idea. Now the fourth resolution will be to arrange the paragraphs in a logical progression, from the beginning of the essay to the end, which perhaps is the most important step in writing an essay. Getting them in order, which is the stepping stone to the essay's final destination. Then the fifth level of resolution is the essay as a whole. It has to be interesting. Even if it's well written, it could still fail if it's just not got any good substance. If it's just not interesting, it'll be hard for a critique to explain or point this out, because an essay just lacks originality or creativity. It's just not good. It's a complete fail, because it's just not interesting. The next are additional levels of resolution. Level 6, which is the context of interpretation, and level 7, the culture in which the reader is embedded in. These two have deep roots in biology and culture. In other words, who you are and how you perceive the topic, and who the audience is and how the audience perceives the topic. This is the level where you keep in mind your audience. Next up is part 3. This is the topic and the reading list. This is the central question that you are trying to answer in the essay. There's 2 effective ways to do this. The first is to list the assigned topics, or list 10 questions, which is the second. This can either be in your own interest or by your lecturers. If you can't do this, you will have to produce your own reading list. However, if you can identify several potential topics of interest, try list 10. Next is part 4, the outline of the essay. At this point, you'd have prepared a list of topics and a reading list. This is where you choose a topic. The outline is like the skeleton of the body, providing form and structure. It's basically the argument. You want to make this first draft longer than the final, so specify the length of your essay by words and pages. Let's say a 1,000-word essay requires 10 sentences. However, if it's much longer, the fundamental outline should not be more than 15. Make sure it stays at 15, because it's difficult to keep an argument of more than that length in mind at one time. Next up is part 5, the paragraph. Now you want to write 10 to 15 sentences per outline, heading, to complete your paragraph. The first step now is production, meaning trying to include as much information as you can possible. And second is editing, reducing the big chunk of writing to keep only the good notes. See, you are going to try to format your essay properly later, so try not to worry or spend too much time around this. Next step is 6, which is editing and arranging of sentences within paragraphs. This is to clear up the bad and just be left with the good. The first step will be to copy the paragraph of your first draft, then place each sentence on its own line. It becomes much easier to focus on your choice of words. You can now begin writing the sentence out again, removing the unnecessary. Next is part 7, which is reordering the paragraphs. This is the part when you copy all the new and improved paragraphs. If you can try to improve the order of these new paragraphs more appropriately, go ahead and give it a try. It is highly recommended. And then finally part 8, generating a new outline. By now you would have produced a decent second draft. You would have identified the appropriate sources, written proper notes, outlined your argument, roughed in a first draft, rewritten sentences, reordered sentences, and reorganized paragraphs. This next step will supposedly take you from a B-level student to an A. It may actually help you write an essay better than you have ever done so in the past, meaning richer in information, more precise, and more of a masterpiece. So what you do now is go through and read your entire essay, then write your outline again with 10 to 15 sentences. Between 10 to 15 sentences, don't bother looking at your essay again. You have to now focus yourself to reconstruct your essay from memory, which will likely improve it, because you'll only think about what's important. The argument from the memory will improve it. So reconstruct the argument from memory. Generally, you will remember what's important, removing the useless and keeping what's vital. Once done that, open a new document, cut and paste your new outline. Return to the original document and take out the rest of your essay into the new document. And you would have probably realized that there's some stuff that you don't need. And by that time, you would probably throw it all away, the stuff that you don't need. And that's your final essay, done and completed. Don't forget to write a title page and a reference. For more information about this information, you can find it in the link in the description below if you really want the guide to writing an essay.